to another edition of the program Newsroom here on Canal the English. I am Elie Smith sitting in for Henry Kejang Atembe. In this edition of the program, we have two topics earmarked for debates. You have seen it or you may have watched it live on CRTV. The Minister of Communications, Issa Chiruma Bakari, has presented a different dimension of in the ongoing Anglophone crisis in Cameroon. And we'll be asking the question after he presented claimed to be leaders of the armed wing of the Ambazonian Front, and the question is, has the Anglophone activism taken another turn? That is the question that we'll be asking after a cache of arms was found in the divisional capital of the Momo division called Mbengui. Then our second and final debating point will be what has held most Cameroonians hostage. It is whether Cameroon has the capacity to host the 2019 AFCON. The good thing about this debate is that it is not along linguistic lines, but it is purely ideological. But before we go into the crux of this program today, let me present to you those who have had the courtesy to come here and take part in this program. I will begin on my left. His name is Amabo Marcel. We all know him, those who have been watching this program. I think, if I'm not wrong, he is a lawyer by profession. Welcome, Mr. Marcel Amabo.
Thank you very much, Mr. Elie Smith.
Okay. And for those of you who have been watching the state broadcaster, that is the Cameroon Radio Television Corporation, CRTV, you may have watched or listened to his savvy voice and reports. His name is Moki Charles Linonge. He's a journalist, and it's a pleasure to have him here today. Mr. Moki.
Thank you very much. It's always a pleasure being here on the Newsroom. It's not the first, not the second, neither is it the third time, and I'm not sure it's the last. I'm going to be here.
Okay, it is a pleasure. And, well, his name is Nguboye Elevis Chunk. He is making, if I'm not wrong, and he will correct me, his first appearance here, or perhaps he is infrequent. So he is an economist by profession. Mr. Chonka, it's a pleasure to have you on set.
Thank you very much, Mr. Elie Smith. Two corrections there. First one is this is my second appearance here. I was here with Kejang in 2016, and I'm a medical laboratory scientist by profession. Okay. Though I'm here as a political pundit.
All right, so I would like to expose the cat out of the bag because Mr. Kejang Atembe told me you were an economist, hence I present you as an economist. Okay, well, never mind. Well, we shall be coming first. We'll be beginning this program with our icebreakers. We'll be talking about the GCE. We shall be going to Kenya, the Democratic Republic of the Congo, and also the Republic of Congo. But please do not go away. It will be right. It will be right after this. Before going into what we came here for, I said we had two topics to this afternoon, but then before then it is the icebreaker. As you all know, the General Certificate of Education at a long last is out, and anyway, the A levels, those registered this year we have, well, let me get it. The registered are those who wrote were 33,037. And the number of those who registered was 38,000. And the percentage of success this year is 35.52%. And those who passed is 11,670. Those are the statistics. And now, as far as the technical version of the A level of the General Certificate of Education is concerned, we have 3,472 registered, 2,567 wrote, 574 passed with a percentage of 22.36%. But if we compare that with last year, that is 2016, it was 54.33% who passed the technical version of the advanced level. And as far as the other level, the the general level is concerned, that is literature and others, you have last year you had 62.52%, and those who registered for the A levels last year were 46,000 registered. But this year, 38,000 registered, 33,037 candidates wrote. Now, I would like to start this, to have, I'll begin with you, Amabo Marcel. What impression do you have after these results were given, that is the A levels first?
Yeah, I think it simply just expressed to us that things are not going very well. Firstly, the advanced level results have been published. The ordinary level results are still pending. And secondly, considering the disparity in the number of candidates who registered, those who wrote, and then percentage pass, I mean, with all the present crisis in the Northwest and Southwest, which of course is the real base for the GCE examination, we did not really expect something better than what we are seeing. So it just comes to reveal that, to confirm that there is a crisis that is ongoing. Okay. So, I mean, it's just reflective of the situation on the ground.
Great. And now I will turn over to you, Mr. Moki Charles. Is that are you surprised that the results are coming out this late? Because I understood, or someone told me, that normally it would have been out by July. Are you kind of surprised that it is coming this late, and then we have this kind of not very good results?
Yeah, thank you very much, Elie. First of all, it's difficult to plant guavas and you harvest pawpaw in life. Let me congratulate all those who dared even to write, because given the socio-political situation, climate, it wasn't evident. There were many parents who didn't just want to risk the lives of their children to go out. It was really risky. My daughter wrote, and to me it was a challenge. I just wanted my daughter to have a story to tell in future, that in my country this year there was this situation and I took part. She had to climb a bike and go as far as Bafut at 5 a.m. in the morning. It was just a way of letting her see the other side of life. It wasn't easy. It wasn't evident that the GC was going to hold. Those who wrote, congratulations. Those who dared, and particular congratulations to those who made it. And looking at the context, it was very difficult. Up to now, it's still very difficult because nothing is clear, despite the fact that lots of a few agitators want to let us know that things are very smooth. Things are not really working smoothly. The results coming out at this time, I think it's just a reflection, it's an answer to what Amabo said, the situation in which they wrote. We wouldn't have expected something better than this, given the context. So that's all I have to say about that.
Thank you very much. And Mr. Chunka, was it worth the pain writing these exams after we look at all what his daughter went through? There are other stories like that. Everybody has a story about this year's GC. Was it worth it?
I think it was. Before I answer your question, I will have to go back to, well, that's not the main topic we have today. I will not want to overbear it, but it was multifactorial what happened this year. It was not just, the crisis was multicephalous. It had so many heads. What culminated in these results we are seeing today should have us pause and think and ask questions about what we want going forward. The schools, the teachers had their strike. Some called off the strike, and some didn't want to continue going to school. The parents weren't assured that the security was acceptable for children to go to school. People were on social media who actively were posing threats to children, and no parent would want to send a child to school when buildings are being burnt and all of that. The government there were so many factors in this. But what I want to appreciate more in this story is the fact that education has no price. I could have all political revendications I may want. I would still not want to put the children in the line of fire. GCE is an exam that could be written by people who don't go to school. We have people who have been working and want to progress in life. They went to school on their own. My own father, my late father, schooled himself. So I take it very seriously that people who want to have an education should do so. Okay. Though the levels were not very good this year. We hope things will get better for the next academic year.
We hope things will get better, as you rightly say. Well, we live in Cameroon for this African country of Kenya. Well, in spite of the threat from Raila Odinga, and there who was a former prime minister, and well, I'm not going to be that demeaning. Serial losers after losing against Moi Kibaki. He has lost again against Uhuru Mogai Kenyatta with 54.3% for Uhuru Kenyatta as opposed to 44.7% for Raila Odinga. I'll begin with you this time around. When you have a man who has this pedigree of a serial loser, do you think that his claims was worth taking into consideration?
His protest of the results?
Yes.
I think this is a recurring issue in Africa. I was talking last time here about what I term presidentialist democracies that we have created in Africa. We want to base our definition of democracies on presidential elections. This has made for politicians who do everything to be president. I mean, he just wants to be called president. I'm not talking of Kenyatta alone, of Raila Odinga alone, but we have this recurrent theme, you know, with jumping in Gabon and all of that. The situation in 2007 was really dire. No one would want that for Kenya this year again. But what do we do? That's a big question. I mean, are we getting to a situation where an incumbent cannot win an election? If it's supposed to be fair and free, the opposition must win, like we saw with Buhari in Nigeria. I was saying something when Buhari won the election in Nigeria last time. I said, are we moving towards a situation where an election will only be credible when the opposition wins? Okay. Could that be a marginalization of an incumbent president? The details of the Kenyan situation, I don't know, but I respect democracy, constitutional democracies. The results are out. I think Raila Odinga should respect his nation and accept the results.
He should respect. Now I'll go back to you, Moki. Now he is trying to say it is becoming a kind of habit in Africa whereby whenever the incumbent wins, the rival or the challenger it doesn't want to accept, so a kind of sore losers syndrome. But let me ask you this question. When a presidential candidate like Raila Odinga complains that the server of the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission was tampered with, and it is not the first time. We had a case in Mexico where allegations were made that the Mexican government or the current president of Mexico, Peña Nieto, and his pre-party that have governed Mexico for 79 years before losing the elections came to power because of tampering of the website or the Electoral Commission's website. Nobody said anything about it. We have the case recently in the United States. Yeah. So as a journalist, do you think, one, he is right to complain and that his complaint would have been given or given some attention? Or two, and the second question is, do you think that Cameroon might kind of have the same problems as we are going into elections next year or whenever we are ready for elections?
Thank you again. The Kenyan example is an eye-opener. It's true that we are building a kind of democracy whereby focus is on the president and everybody puts in all to gain the presidency because you know there you have absolute powers. Our presidents are absolute monarchs. That's the system we are creating. But Raila Odinga's complaint should be an eye-opener for many African countries, especially for Cameroon. Our country is very good at copying bad things, and sometimes copying good things and implementing them very badly. It happened in the US. You know that till now, the situation in the US is not yet as calm as we may think. The situation of the Russians hacking into the US electoral system. Even in Mexico, we are far away from Mexico, but it is still making news over there. The case of Kenya. Now, I'm getting worried. We are getting to a point where election rigging is no longer going to be through sous-prefets. It's no longer going to be through senior divisional officers, through a polling station, presidents of polling stations, and so on. When our country, our head of state insists on digitalizing Cameroon, you know, there's a lot of emphasis on this recently. I begin to get worried. Very soon, Elekan will be digitalized as well. And we are going to have a parallel something somewhere, whereby elections will hold normally. You count the votes, and somebody goes online and hacks the system and injects figures. That is my worry. We are moving towards a situation where elections are no longer very safe with our new information and communication technology. So Raila Odinga complaining, yeah, for me, it's too much. He's a serial loser. I think it's time for him to give up.
Exactly.
Yes, it may be a problem with the person, Odinga. You know, they need to try some fresh blood there. But again, he is raising, you know, it's somebody might be a prisoner, no doubt, has been condemned, yes, but listen to that person. Even if at all the person has already been condemned. He has lost the election, that is clear. But raising this issue of the system being hacked, and the president of the commission confirmed that there was an attempt. So it means there was something somewhere. There was an attempt. To me, it's an eye-opener, especially for Cameroon, which is very good at copying such examples.
Which is very good at copying such examples. So which means that if Jean Ping was complaining in Gabon, he was not just complaining just for complaining's sake. And also Raila Odinga complaining in Kenya, he's not complaining simply because he wanted this time around to win. He is 72 years old. But anyway, the election there just for in 5 years' time, maybe he will make another try. Buhari tried for 4 times. I think it was the 4th time that was good for him. Senegal, Abdoulaye Wade did a number of times, Gbagbo did a number of times, Alpha Condé, and at the end, when people thought that nothing is going to happen for him, Alpha Condé was elected president. Amabo, this question is, why is it that the opposition is always complaining? And to conclude on this, do you think that, well, as Uhuru said, we have one Kenya, there is bound to be a winner and a loser? Let's work together. Do you think that that olive leaf that Mr. Uhuru has shown or extended to Raila, it should be taken? The first question is, why is it that the opposition in Africa almost always cry foul?
I think it's simple. Like President Obama once said, that Africa does not need strong men, but needs strong institutions. If we have a situation in our political system across Africa where opposition candidates, opposition parties are always crying foul with election results, it is because the institutions are not credible. Yeah, we don't have credible democratic institutions to run our elections in Africa. Even in some countries where they are trying to do so, like in Kenya, they'll see a lot that is still wanting, you know. So I think for us to change this kind of situation, this story in Africa, there is a need for our politicians, there is a need for our leaders to be sincere, transparent enough, be patriotic enough to see that we build credible, democratic political institutions in our different nations across Africa. When we can begin to have those kind of institutions that are credible, whosoever is coming there is not looking up to individuals, but is counting on the credibility of that institution. And we should be, and of course with credibility comes the issue of independence, autonomy. You know, majority of our so-called democratic institutions in African countries today are run by those who are directly linked with the regime in place. Majority of it run by those who are directly linked with the regime in place. So, of course, it's normal and it's natural that these people would want to serve the interests of those who got them there. So, I think it's simple. We just have to ensure we put in place credible democratic institutions and
Should Raila work with him?
Well, I think that is the traditional song that we always hear at the end of every election, in whichever country it's concerned. Always like, le pays, nous sommes un, we are one, il faut travailler avec tous, it's not but that's not the point. That's not the point. Every person as a citizen of that country merits the opportunity to serve that country in the highest office. And it's the duty of the leadership of that country, it's the duty of the constitution to see that such citizens should be able to exercise that right and benefit of it the highest possible. You shouldn't deprive anyone in any way or manipulate things in any way to come and sing us that song at the end. You see, so, and that is why we always have this kind of strife. That's why we had what we had in 2007 in Kenya. And so I think these are things which those who are there, Kenyatta should try to see that such things should be eliminated as much as possible. You know, he has a very wonderful, he's coming from a very heavy lineage, political lineage, and I think it's incumbent on him not to soil the name of the Kenyatta.
Of the Kenyattas, of his father. But we'll be leaving the East African state of Kenya, the largest economy in East Africa, to Central Africa, the heart of Africa, that is the Democratic Republic of the Congo. And this week, the streets of Kinshasa, formerly known as Leopoldville, saw blood again. Anyway, it is recurrent in that country since Joseph Kabila Kabange decided not to respect the constitution of that country by leaving power as stipulated. If it is not massacres in the lawless east, it is also, you have the same case in Kasai in the center of the country. But this time around, havoc came into Kinshasa when a certain man known as Mwanda Nsemi, he is the head of the Bakongo, that is him, they call it kind of luminary, a former MP since 2006. Mwanda Nsemi, his full names are, or his official names are Zachary Badielinga. On the 17th of May, if you could recall, he left. There was a kind of spectacular jailbreak at the Makala prisons where he left with 50 of his followers, and this time around he came on the streets of Kinshasa in open warfare with the military there in the Democratic Republic of the Congo. Those are the members of the Voodoo Dia Congo. Voodoo Dia Congo is a religious sect, a Christian religious sect, to remind people to understand that Christianity did not just only come from Europe. We have our own African Christians. I will be staying with you, but what is this problem? Why is it that in the Congo, the Democratic Republic of the Congo, you have this recurrent bloodshed?
I still come back to what I was saying earlier. We have greedy individuals who have no sense of patriotism. They have no interest to serving their people and serving their land. They are there to serve particular interests and represented interests. Because I don't see for any reason why somebody like Joseph Kabila haven't been in power for this long, and knowing the kind of situation that that country has gone through and who has the interest of his people, we want to go against the constitution at such a critical time. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. And you see, these are things which gives an open door to these imperialists to come in and start doing any kind of thing in the name of democracy, in the name of respect for human rights, whereas we are the cause. So people like Kabila, I mean, should be really dealt with. That's real rubbish.
Kabila should be really dealt with. What did you share the same position or opinion that Kabila should be dealt with because he's not respecting the constitution of the DRC?
Well, Kabila will be dealt with by whom? That's the question. Kabila should be dealt with, yes, by whom? Look, the DR Congo is one of the richest in terms of natural resources in Africa. I think it should be the richest in the world. And, you know, there are about 44 multinationals operating there. They exploit natural resources. None is owned by Congolese. No one. It's just to tell you that those who exploit the resources are happy with the status quo. They want the situation to be as it is. The more you fight each other, you kill one another, behind they're exploiting your resources and they're getting rich, eating fat from your resources. That is as simple as that. Now, I think it's the greed of the leaders to allow such a thing to happen. We need patriotic leaders who stand up and say enough is enough. We can't go on like this. And of course, the so-called colonial masters or the superpowers have their own way of dealing with them. If you say they should deal with Kabila, he may go the Laurent Gbagbo way. We all know what happened in Cote d'Ivoire before Laurent Gbagbo became, got to where he is. So I don't know whether it's out of fear not to go the Gbagbo way, that because you cannot tell me that Kabila alone will be more than the world. No. Why is the United States silent? Why is France silent? Why are they playing this kind of game behind? The British and so on, all of them have interest in maintaining the DR Congo as it is. So that behind it, they exploit their resources. I think it's as simple as that.
It's as simple as that. And
I suspect it's more complicated than that.
What is
before you ask your question, just to let the flow, it will be an error to analyze the DRC superficially. Let's just say these remote events that have come in. I know this is not the show we don't have time. It is so recurrent. It is so deeply rooted. This is a country that was owned by one person at a time. Yeah, this is the landmass that was owned by a king.
Do we need always to go behind and complain that it was because of Leopold II or whatever?
We have to get to the crux, because it's not, like he was saying, it's not over. What has happened is simply a change in the methods.
Had it been he respected the constitution, you have 2 mandates and you go.
Kabila is simply the face of a huge interest that is simply representing those interests.
All right, but
he was saying this. Let me just stop on this. He was saying they are silent, Britain. They are only silent on the media. They are only silent in criticizing him in public. Yes, they do. They are even trying to do that, but behind the scenes, they are not. This is a man whose father came to power by rebellion. His father put it out, and not.
They are not what?
They are not silent.
They
are maintaining the status quo behind the scenes, because they have interest in this country. And it's not just for Kabila, because he's talking about changing Kabila as being a panacea. No, Tshisekedi is almost a child of Belgium.
The Tshisekedi is there.
Tshisekedi clan. His son is now, there are now infightings in his party. His son is trying to take over, and there are people criticizing him. There's no difference between Tshisekedi, Kabila, any of those, and the governor of Katanga, who has now is now in exile.
I think.
Let me just chip in this. The issue is taking Kabila is not just removing the face. Okay. It comes back to the issue of those who are leaders. Can they make the sacrifice to put this thing to an end? What is that sacrifice? To refuse to serve these imperialist interests by wanting to manipulate their own people. Somewhere along the line, there must be a generation of people who have to say, okay, we'll refuse to toe the line according to your tune. We'll refuse to
That's what the DRC lacks.
Dance your music. So that is
But the thing is, if sometimes we do accuse multinational, I'm not against, but we have to remember that according to one recent Bloomberg report, Kabila has about 100 companies controlling. His sister, Grace, is the chairman of the board of directors of a bank called BGFE with about 60%. The elder brother, Selemani, is the director general. So he's there for an interest. I don't think we need always to. And also on the point of what America is doing, I think the problem is that the Obama administration was so cerebral, talking a lot, but with governments like those of Kabila, you need to be hard on them if you really want them to leave. Because we have an example. When Charles Taylor was kind of tinkering with going or staying, you needed somebody like George Bush to put an end to the problems of Liberia. And we may not like George Bush, but we saw the dividend. But we are going to talk now a little bit about the Republic of Congo just across the river, but no debate about that. At a long last, there was one prisoner there. Freedom has been seen now for this man. His name is Modeste Bukadia. Modeste Bukadia is an opposition party leader. He was arrested on the 15th of January at the Brazzaville Maya International Airport and sentenced to 30 years in prison, but he has been freed and flown back to France. So Modeste Bukadia is now free, and so the tally at the Brazzaville prison now. That's Modeste Boukadia on your screen. Feel he was freed recently and flown back to France. And there, Brazzaville also is a country whereby President Sassou Nguesso has been in power for almost 40 years. And we don't think it's almost always the problems of France. We are also a problem ourselves. Then you have another person there. His name is Jacques Bananganzala. He's still in prison and he is also terminally sick. Well, it is on those icebreakers that we're going to have a small interlude, and after that, you'll be having the headlines with Meme Dominic.
Five men in the police dragnet for illegal purchase and use of firearms in Bingui, Momo Division of the Northwest Region. The leader of the group, Ndasi Alfred, the Minister of Communication, tells us the man is an element of the armed force of Ambazonia. How these men successfully smuggled the arms to Cameroon, despite heavy security presence in our borders, is the unanswered question. Newsroom gets into the bits and the pieces of arms circulation in Cameroon. The president of the Confederation of African Football, CAF, sent all Cameroonians to the drawing board by making startling declarations of Cameroon's unpreparedness to host the 2019 African Cup of Nations. From the president of FECAFOOT, ex-CAF president, and finally President Paul Biya, the condemnation of President Ahmad's statement has been aggressive, with Paul Biya taking the firm engagement for the hosting of the African biggest football jamboree in 2019. Will Cameroon be ready for 2019? The million-dollar question. Flames of tension once again in Kenya following the victory of President Uhuru Kenyatta in the presidential elections. Supporters of the opposition coalition of Raila Odinga say the electoral database was hacked and elections result manipulated in favor of President Uhuru Kenyatta. How to settle dispute the East African economic giant is what the African Union should start thinking about. This is Newsroom on Canada English, a program where news items of the week receive detailed explanation to the satisfaction of all. Welcome to join us.
Well, that was our headline there by the one and only Meme Dominic. And straight away, we shall be having the press review with the one and only Meme Dominic once again.
Good afternoon to you, Elie Smith, and good afternoon to the panelists. We begin our press review with Informate newspaper that talk about President Paul Biya confirming the stand of the country, Cameroon, to host the African Cup of Nations 2018. Informate newspaper tells us that President Paul Biya made a statement that was at the Unity Palace while receiving athletes that participated in the just ended Francophonie Games that took place in Ivory Coast. And the Expression newspaper says that Ahmad, that is the CAF president, or the president of the Confederation of African Football, wants to humiliate Cameroon by making a statement saying that at this moment the country Cameroon cannot host a four-nation tournament as of the moment, given the infrastructure problem or sport infrastructure or facilities that are not ready in the country Cameroon. That Expression, apart from expressing the view of the minds of Cameroonians concerning the statement of Ahmad ahead of the hosting of the 2019 African Cup of Nations, several other newspapers in the country handled the issue, with most of them describing Ahmad as playing some political witch hunting as far as the hosting of the 2019 African Cup of Nations is concerned. To most of the newspapers in the country, the president of CAF is trying to settle scores following humiliation he was earlier given at the level of CAF by the ex-president of CAF, Issa Hayatou. Away from football, we talk other information in the newspaper. The main opposition party of in the country, that is the Social Democratic Front, gives 5 conditions to the government of Cameroon as conditions that if the government of the country fulfills, schools in the northwest and the southwest region of the country will successfully open their doors for the 2017-2018 academic year that is expected to start in September. The Post newspaper mentioned to us that during the NEC meeting last weekend in Bamenda, the party of Nijon Fundi mentioned that if all these conditions are respected, then Cameroon or the northwest and the southwest regions of the country will be ready to start a school in September. The NEC, during the NEC meeting that is in Bamenda, the STF equally condemned the outing of government delegations to some countries in the world in order to talk about the Anglophone crisis. From the stand of the Social Democratic Front, the Rambler newspaper tells us that some parents in the northwest and the southwest regions of the country have been sending their kids to enroll in schools in the other 8 regions of the country where schools are ready to open in September this year. The Rambler newspaper says most parents in the northwest and the southwest regions does not want their kids to stay at home again after a blank school year or almost a blank school year that was experienced last year. In frantic effort to get schools resumed in September, a Indian newspaper gives result of government's delegation in out of the country, in Canada, Nigeria, as well as United States of America, saying that most of these delegations were humiliated while out of the country to canvass support or explain the position of the government on how the Anglophone crisis will be resolved. The Informaten takes particular attention of the delegation of Laurent So, who is the Minister of Justice and the Keeper of the Seal, that went to Brussels. Informaten tells us that he was humiliated and disgraced by Cameroonians in the diaspora who asked Laurent So to go back to the country and resolve the Anglophone crisis there and not in Brussels. We leave the Anglophone crisis and talk about war against Boko Haram, with the Star newspaper saying that a bomb blast in the far north region of the country killed 7 persons in the far north region of the country, with the mayor of Komfata forced to make a declaration to Amnesty International saying that the Amnesty International have been playing the role of a devil's advocate by saying that the military in the country have been brutally killing the militants of Boko Haram, not minding the atrocities this sect have been causing to Cameroonians. Ledu Sahel newspaper talk about the same information but gives another report of another suicide attack that killed over 9 children in the far north region of the country. Following this information, the paper questions if the war against Boko Haram is actually coming to an end. Elie Smith will end with the La Meteo newspaper that is questioning why President Paul Biya is still maintaining the government of Filimuya, despite the fact that the government of Filimuya have failed in several occasions. First, to resolve the Anglophone crisis, the government has failed in that level. The paper equally mentioned that the government have failed in issues like taking out the cause of the death of the late Bishop of the Catholic Church, Jean-Marie Benoit Bala. That is how we come to the end of the press review this day.
Thank you very much, Dominic. It was a pleasure having you here today.
Thank you. Welcome.
All right. Well, that was the press review there by Dominic Meme. I will just want to go straight on the first point of our debate today. We are talking about the Anglophone crisis. Has it taken another turn to the worse, or can we believe the allegations made on TV by the Minister of Communications, Mr. Issa Chiruma Bakari, claiming that an arms cache was discovered in the divisional capital of the Momo division, allegedly owned or headed by one gentleman called Alfred Ndasi? And the question I would like to ask you, Amabo, can we believe Mr. Issa Chiruma's claim that the arms cache belongs to the Ambazonians as he presented?
I want to say that's a little complicated and difficult to take down, considering independent findings, particularly by some investigative journalists. Some credit to this house, Canada. These findings, which required they talking with some residents of the area. If we have the fight against Boko Haram in the north succeeding today, is because residents in the area, they cooperate so much in it. So you cannot get to conclude on certain issues, you know, by keeping out those who reside in the place. So if these findings reveal that the house which government was presenting as, you know, one of the guys who was having the explosive, his house, but the residents are saying that no, we know the person, the owner of this house. That's the first question. Secondly, the nature in which the said explosives and arms were discovered, were revealed. And we're talking about arms, we're talking about explosive. If any security forces or military wing was supposed to go out there, they already knew that they were going for something dangerous. They were supposed to be well prepared. But if you see these guys, when they went out to bring out those things, they were like guys who were just going out for a prefectorial visit or something, patrol, you know, or surveying land and stuff like that. So it brings to question so much about the government report on this situation. So I think it's deeper than that.
It's deeper than that. Moki, some people in Bengui, because some of our reporter was there, one, they are doubting the veracity of Mr. Issa Chiruma, and two, another news came out that that house in fact belongs to a blind man who is a retired gendarmerie. Doesn't that now water down everything, thinking that, well, I want to bring down the thing like a conspiracy theorist? Doesn't that sound as though because those ministers were fan out of the country and they saw the reality, hence they now just want to kill or try to demobilize the momentum?
To distract
exactly
people from focusing on the disgrace that has been going on outside, to bring back the attention home,
yeah.
And so there is something more severe.
Exactly.
And in a way, giving a dog a bad name to hang it, to say, okay, I don't like this dog again, what can I do? You say the dog has rabies, so, I mean, for quite some time now, you belong to the press, I've practiced for more than 15 years. And I think it's difficult to give credibility to some statements made by the Minister of Communication recently. I mean, it's facts. Go anywhere, each time you mention Chiroma, people don't associate that name with credibility and truth again. Because of past experiences, it's not out of the blues. There are a number of incidents we can cite, a number of incidents which the minister has faulted in his so-called communication, you know, and this one is no exception. Some time ago, I think it was 2002, I was a reporter in the East, and 3 guns were found in one village around Garabulai. And I'm telling you, the kind of mobilization which the military mobilized to cordon that area, seal off the area, they sent off all civilians from there just to have access to those guns and to take them.
3
guns. I was a reporter. I saw it, I witnessed it then. You say you discover an arms cache in Momo, in Bengui, and it's so people just walk in there, especially explosives. Those are not things, because you don't know at which state those explosives are found. They may be just at the last stage of detonation, or they may be
they may be kind of booby traps.
Booby traps,
yes.
Or those that are exploded with the remote controls, telecommanded. So it needs experts, specialists to approach that area. And we need to see this mobilization. Now we talk to people who are there, and they said they didn't see this kind of specialized unit coming in to have access the explosives. Then again, this one of the owner of that house.
Yeah, I understand he's a blind man and a retired gendarme officer.
I just want to cross-check and re-verify again. I don't know, just because
that's what we got that information. I was kind of startled when I said, "How can a blind man?"
I got that information.
Yes.
That the house they're saying those arms were, found in, don't belong to the said Darcy
Alfred.
And throughout even the whole Anglophone struggle, even though it's difficult, just the government has criminalized discussion on this Anglophone thing. So it's very, very difficult to talk freely about it, because you never know what will happen. This name has hardly featured. I mean, when the consortium was even outlawed and so on, this name was not part of the reason. Because for me, if they had to outlaw the consortium, it would have been for reasons like arms dealings and so on with such people like the Ndasi. His name never featured anywhere. Now people have moved from consortium to now everybody is now going back to Ambazonia. They are looking for a way of outlawing Ambazonia too because they have outlawed
the consortium.
Now they want to put an arms tag on the neck of Ambazonia to outlaw. I mean, it's not serious. We need to be serious. The minister would have communicated otherwise in this issue as far as it's concerned.
Okay, Mr. Chunk, don't you think that since these days when you talk about terrorism, there is a kind of holy or unholy alliance around anybody, any country that is a victim of terrorism? Don't you think, correct me if I'm wrong, right? Correct. Don't you think that the government has lost with this Anglophone palaver? What they want to do right now is that they want to target them as terrorist organization in order to have the support of the United States, Britain, France.
I will not have that kind of simplistic view. It may be the case, but I think it's a form of paranoia around this whole issue.
Who is paranoid?
The government, of course, and I would classify that paranoia as justified, and I have reasons for that. There are certain things which are not taken lightly in any nation, any state in the world. People have paraded on social media, claiming to want to create armed groups in the former southern Cameroons.
Sorry to interrupt you.
Yeah.
So a serious person, you see somebody on social media claiming to be...
You don't take anything lightly.
you
You don't take anything off the table. It's a principle of administration. You don't take anything off the table. I'm not saying that what the minister said was true, but I'm trying to explain the paranoia. And I don't know the facts on the ground here. If the arms were actually found, and maybe they have the intelligence the government has access to, it's not necessarily what the journalists have access to. It's your job now to do your your investigative journalism and bring out the counterfacts and what went wrong with Mr. Ndasi and things like that. But I would not say that carrying out these operations to find out what really is on the ground, to preempt any form of disorder, any form of armed uprising would be a problem. What would be a problem is if that paranoia diffuses to the general population. So in communicating on this discovery, he may at the end of the day bring out paranoia in the people around Bangui and in the Northwest in general, who may start fleeing the region. These are real possibilities. People may start leaving these kind of places. This is not what we want, okay? I am personally not a fan of the struggle. I don't hide it. I am a counter-revolutionary for this issue. I don't support it.
You don't support what?
I don't support the secessionist movements. I don't support anybody who is
the secessionist now here? Who is the secessionist there?
Where?
In the whole thing that...
No, in general. I'm not talking of this particular...
The consortium
I don't know what you call the consortium. I'm talking
about... Fontaine, they had no secessionists.
No, that's not what I'm saying.
Okay.
There are people who are secessionists, unless you want to deny that. There are people who are convinced, and we should not say these people are insignificant. They are there. They may only be on social media. They may not be on the studios, but they are there. There are people who are genuinely convinced that we have gone beyond the point of no return. Mm-hmm. These people cannot be engaged with. Okay, no nation in the world can engage with secessionists. No nation can negotiate with secessionists. It does not happen. Catalonia and Spain have tried these things. Okay, we could put federalism, 2 states, 4 states.
Catalonia has tried what?
Spain has tried this to Catalonia. It's been since the Spanish Civil War.
No,
they have not gotten to a situation of any dialogue.
But
that
for your
has been
information,
fruitful.
Catalonia was not authorized to organize a referendum.
Yes.
But if you talk about Catalonia, somebody will talk to you about Scotland, Northern Ireland, somebody will talk about Corsica. And there are a lot of examples.
Yes, but I'm not saying that they are the same things.
Yes.
Scotland's situation is totally, drastically different from our situation. Not even Catalonian situation is our situation. What I'm saying is...
May I stay with you a little bit? What is the difference?
It always goes down...
Let me stay with you a bit.
Let me drop.
Hang on a second.
Yeah.
You want to make a parallel between what is happening in Cameroon and Catalonia.
No, I'm not making the parallel on the general...
But the question I'm asking you is, do you believe that in a region like Bangui, because the people of Momo, perhaps I'm wrong, if it happened in, let's say, in Donga Mantum division, it happened in Wum, that is in Kumbo, or in Bamenda, I won't say anything. But this part of that northwest region, I've never heard anything. There are people who go out farming and things like that. Now, are you trying to tell me that the intelligence of this country has been so extraordinary and then discover somebody that at the end of the day they say the house belongs to a retired gendarme?
I'm not doing that. What I'm saying is we can only conjecture here now. But intelligence on such matters are never rendered public. What I said is they may have access to certain intelligence that we and the journalists don't have access to, but everything must be done to preempt such activities from coming up. I'm not saying it is the case. I'm not verifying. I'm not justifying what is happening.
Okay.
I am explaining the paranoia of the government.
Oh, the paranoia of the...
and hoping that it doesn't spread to the
It doesn't spread. Do you share his idea of saying that the Cameroon's government intelligence service, if I'm understanding, if I'm not wrong...
Me?
Yes, if I'm not, correct me if I'm wrong, right? You are trying, if I understand that, perhaps the government of Cameroon has some strategic or vital information that we may not have, and that perhaps for once, Chiruma, who is known as being of very little credibility, whatever thing he says is synonymous to encode lies, this time around may not be wrong. Mr.
Well, I think my brother there said something very pertinent about the fact that Mr. Chiruma has some kind of lost credibility in his communication, official communication on behalf of the government. You see, this whole thing is very funny. Belgium, remember that I think this Dassi guy is Dassiga was
Alfred Dassi,
who has the Belgian nationality, if I'm not mistaken. Now, come to think of it, we have intelligence services in this country. They do their job somehow. At times, you see the result. But the problem is, our leaders, our politicians, they use some of this information poorly because they want to serve their greedy interest. Belgium is one of the few countries whose diplomatic missions in this country, whose diplomatic missions in this country made a statement concerning the situation that is going on and caution its citizens that you people should be careful whatever thing is happening in the northwest and southwest because of the tension. You are advised to respect the ghost armed and stuff. And most of the activists in the diaspora, Belgium, we got a report of what they did to Minister Linonge, also in Belgium. So it should just explain to us what our government should be feeling towards the Belgians. So it's not by chance that you could be having a situation like this with this guy coming up as the owner or one of the owners of these arms, and we sharing a Belgian nationality. And so it's politics.
It's politics.
It's politics, and we know how it goes.
Yeah, do you kind of share? We are just speculating, right? You're giving your analysis. You have some information that perhaps I don't have, or we were sharing on this debate. Now, I kind of felt that way, that this thing, Mr. Linonge made his Waterloo in Belgium, and then it was appropriate for a name tag to be given to somebody who has a connection to Belgium. What do you think about that?
Well, it may be, as you say, we are speculating here. We don't have the hard facts. But the principles of intellectual honesty equally dictate to us to analyze things from both ends. It's true, you know, on a greater percentage, I think it's just giving a dog a bad name in order to hang it. But on the other side too, it's incumbent on any state whatsoever, even if you are the head of state or whatever, and such things comes out to be true, that an arms cache is found somewhere within your country and so on, I think it has to be dealt with all severity. Now I'm looking at the severity in this part of the country. I make phone calls, I say, okay, if something of that sort is discovered in this part of the country, the place should be well militarized now, and by now there should be other guys infiltrating to find out. But the lightness with which it's being handled over there, after the discovery, they took out everything and went, and the place is left, it begins to give me some, you know, some kind of suspicion that there is something going on somewhere. But again, if it is true that the arms, you know, were found, I also want to look at it from the sociological point of view. Let's look at the nature of the people here. You know, Boko Haram is surviving in the north because if you analyze the people sociologically, they are people by the nature of maybe their religion or culture, they can die for anything. But I don't know from the history of the Northwest or the South, I don't know whether we have a tribe in this part of the country where somebody will accept one day to wear a bomb on their body to go and explode somewhere. I don't know, prove me wrong. Maybe that we have sociologists out there, anthropologists who can help us do further analysis of this situation. But I'm looking at the nature of the people. It's true we have our own differences. Sometimes we have the wars between the I don't want to name tribes here, and so on. They end there and we resolve them. But to say, I've never heard it, except you know of one case where somebody has taken a bomb one day, put on the body in the Northwest or Southwest and go to explode him or herself somewhere. So, I mean, I try to analyze the things from different aspects, and yet 1 + 1 does not give me 2.
Exactly, in that situation. Well, Chunka, I'm coming back on you because you kind of have a kind of personal view, which is kind of unique on the whole show. What would you say to people who are floating the idea already that the Northwest and Southwest region is on the verge of being over-militarized, so the government needed a kind of justification? Hence, they went in a place like Mbengwi. But the problem is, I myself, I don't know, as I was trying to say, these people of Mbengwi, they are just farmers and things like that. I've never heard, perhaps, I think the last time there was a kind of confrontation there in 1952 between the Metas and the Balis. That's a long time ago, right? About 63 years today. But they don't have a history even of militancy like other parts of the Northwest. If it were in Ndonga Mantum or Bui, well, we would have said, okay, they are like the warrior tribe. But these guys of the Meta people, they're kind of such a peaceful, loving person. And then our reporters went there. The people of the Mbengwi people are in doubt. They don't believe in what the government said. Don't you think the government just want to flood the place with soldiers? So you need to find something to justify.
I'm struggling here with not agreeing with trying not to fall for the temptation of conspiracy theories.
No, you're right, yes.
And at the same time, not fall to the trap of saying Bengwi people have bad people within them. I am of the Northwest. I know these people, and these are peace-loving people. Cameroonians are generally peace-loving people. However, the Frenchman says, la confiance n'exclut pas la méfiance.
Yes.
And in governance, we cannot at the same time blame this regime, and I do that a lot, of always being apathic, of not preempting stuff, not previewing things, and at the same time saying they are doing too much now. About the militarization of the Northwest region, of Bamenda in particular, I've heard that a lot. It could be that maybe they are trying to use that. I mean, there are so many possibilities. It could be possible that those arms came from America because America wants to give this to this. I don't do that. I don't conjecture too far. The simplest explanation is always closer to the truth. That's how I look at things. If arms were found, there has to be an explanation to this, for where they were found and at the time. It could be that, like Mr. Moki was saying, the way people went out, the way they went, the effective, the way they went out to carry out those arms was too light. But at the same time, someone could say that, well, they did not do enough. You could say they don't do enough, and someone said they did too much. Okay, what happened? The facts on the ground is what I care about. If the facts on the ground are to say, Mr. This was in line with it, let the investigations continue. It shouldn't happen. It shouldn't disturb the rest of the people of Bengwi. We shouldn't stigmatize them. We should be careful not to fall to the trap where we start stereotyping people by saying, okay, these people have done this and these people have done that.
Let me stay again with you. Quite interesting. What do you make of the opinion of the people of Mbengwi that our reporters went there and they said that thing is, to be blunt, lies fabricated by the government?
They simply have the opinion that this thing has been cooked up by the government. It's their right to have that opinion. Okay, it does not compel me to agree with them if I don't see enough evidence.
But do you believe in what the government says? I am
by no means thinking that this government has 100% credibility. By no means, of course. But as an administrator, you have to take certain action. Yes. If they have found those arms, and let the investigations continue. The people of Bengwi have the right to feel that way. There's so much distrust in this country. It's not just Bengwi. In Zeka, it's the same. In the East, it's the same. People don't trust the government anymore. So these theories will come about. We have the issue of the bishop. We saw the amount of theories that came out. Till today, no one accepts what the state council said. No one accepts what the government is saying. It just normally happens. Even in America, it happens like
But
that.
don't you think that people,
we should care about facts.
People doubt the government simply because a credible man like the Archbishop of Douala, Samuel Kleda, said openly that he was brutally
Exactly.
Murdered.
Not only that, not only because he was credible, but even people who don't think the bishop was credible, the president of the Episcopal Conference was credible, still think, they think he may not be credible, but they still think the government is not credible.
okay.
So there is this distrust that is ambient, and I have my own opinion on the bishop issue, but it just goes back to the distrust. We have to mend this country beyond our crisis, immediate crisis. We have to bring back that trust. Maybe for another regime to do, but it has to be done.
Marcel Amabo, now that this has been discovered, where we are criticizing, if you had a kind of suggestion to give, because we cannot just keep on criticizing, we need to at a certain point in time say, okay, the government had to do this or that. If, in your point of view, what do you think the government would have done?
Well, I think he said something very important when we have a situation where some people are claiming to be,
To doubt.
no, are claiming to be storing up arms, to attack, It's something that needs the attention of the government, and the government needs to work. And obviously, the aspect of investigation, intelligence services, and all that is good. It's part of administration. It's part of governing. And it needs to be done. It has to be done in order for the government to secure its citizens and to secure its territory. You get it? But our only concern there is how it's done, how it's portrayed to the public. That's how it's supposed to be done, because in case of any arms infiltration, that's how it can be stopped. So I think the government has that duty to do so. It has its right to do so. Okay? But how you portray it matters, because when you start portraying in a way that the people can't believe you, they seem to lose credibility in you. When there may be something that may be more real than this one, the people may not be able to cooperate. I earlier said the fight being won up north, far north, against Boko Haram, it stands also to the cooperation of the community, of the residents. You see, how did they get to that? Because of intelligence services. They did the studies and they realized that these people, they know all the looks and cranes of the neighborhood, and they are ready to do whatever it takes to defend their local communities. And that's how the government said, okay, the intelligence service, after having revealed this information to the government, said, okay, the necessary action to take is that let us assist these communities with some defensive measures that could help them, to push out these terrorists, these Boko Haram guys. So I think it's part of it's the government's duty to do so.
So the government has to win the hearts and minds of the people of the northwest and southwest regions in this ongoing crisis. Moki, it has nothing to do, but when we discover an arms cache, and there is another idea being floated around, I understand, I don't know, correct me if I'm wrong, that the CPDM is planning to create vigilante groups to accompany people when classes resume. When we have a arm cache now, and you have this idea of vigilante groups being created, isn't that a recipe for chaos in that region that the government is preparing?
No, I think I'll look at it from another point of view. In this ongoing struggle in the northwest and southwest, there are lots of errors which have been committed by both sides, and even on the part of the two regions. I mean, there's something I will always preach against, this idea of shutting down schools. It is one of the most stupid and the most foolish things that has tarnished this whole struggle. And I mean, when we even see educated people clamoring for this and supporting it vehemently, and such people lose respect. I don't respect them anymore. There is nothing as bad as depriving a child of his education. Just recently, it's not even a CPDM affair. Where I grew up, I met a number of guys in the area and said, since we have people who are so crazy and think that if you prevent children from going to school, you should burn down the school even, and even molest children going to school, innocent children. Why don't we form our own vigilante group in our neighborhood? We have 3 schools there. We have 2 primary schools and a secondary school. We saw the pains with which our parents went to have these schools constructed here. We carried planks and timbers to work here. And for some individual to come overnight and burn down this place is going to be very painful. We have to protect our interest. So creating vigilante groups to protect communities, I think it's even better than sending soldiers there. Instead of militarizing the area, we should create vigilante groups and protect because these structures that are being destroyed today, who will construct them tomorrow? Look at the taxation office in Kumba, which was burned down how many years ago till date? It's still there. There are many other structures in different parts of the country which were burned down by mobs and so on. And the things are still there. Nobody cares today. Tomorrow will be the same people to suffer. So this bullet that we are shooting ourselves on the leg, it is not fair. I think one of the things to show the world that we even have a genuine case is for us to stand and say, let children go to school. Let the children go to school. We shouldn't be fighting a war and put the children, on the front line.
And once someone will retort that is the only bargaining chip that they have to compel the government to release people like Abobala.
Children.
It's a reckless bargaining.
My God.
It's very reckless.
We need to be serious. Children, it just take the simple analogy. We are on the war front. Okay. We have news that our enemies are coming to attack us. Then we take our children and put on the war front.
So please,
Right.
let me just come in.
Let
me come in there. He said we are on a war front. It's true, but the question is what kind of war? Because when you look at what this trade union, before it became all an Anglophone issue, you look at what the trade union were revendicating from the very beginning. It was an issue of the systems, the educational system and the legal system. Now, the question now is, if they took the students away, the children from school, was because they saw that the education that the students were being given is not up to what they require. And
that was the same system that made them.
No, that is why
the same system made them.
Made them to be on the streets with degrees, made them to be going on bensiking with master's degrees in their pocket. That is not the kind of education that they want to give to their children. Is it an exclusive thing of Anglophones being bensiking?
No. Okay, I will wait a minute. What we're going to do is I'm going to leave this topic. I would like us to not to talk about it more. I want us to change the topic of the because we have.
Let me just
go rapidly because he hasn't said anything, and we need to talk. We have a second and final.
From the very beginning, what was raised by these trade union guys concerning the educational and legal systems, when you go back to analyze, when you want to take a shot on something, you ask yourself, what have you achieved out of it? I think that is what is keeping them where they are, because they don't yet see what they have gained out of it.
Okay, I will just rapidly.
Just one word. Yes, the strike was corporatist. They had clear, specific educational revendications. They have called off their strike at this moment because they see that one or two of the points had started being implemented. The redeployment of teachers, the technical issue, and all of that. The common law bench at the Supreme Court. When you say a strike is not war. I'm sure he was using that word war as a metaphor. It's not war. The government cannot be a war against its people. When you strike, you have to be responsible. There are international laws that enclose these strikes. There is a time limit for every strike, or else it becomes chaos. Once the strike is over, you go to negotiation, they want to continue. Let the children go to school. You don't tell me that education is not important because there are no jobs. You don't go to school to get jobs. That's the problem of Africa. Maybe it's another topic we'll get to. You don't go to school because you want jobs. No. You have to get cultured, first of all. And that's why we don't have enough entrepreneurs, because people come out to school, you say you want jobs. You just want jobs. That's why. People study history and they want to get a job at the refinery.
All right. Okay.
We have to think about the educational system is good.
Okay, Mr. Chunk, we'll be going to another topic, which will be the final one. It is one thing that has also taken Cameroonian hostage. Fortunately, as I said, it is not along linguistic line. This is the question: Can Cameroon host the Africa Cup of Nations come 2019. And perhaps by default, the chairman of the African Football Confederation, Ahmad, has really sparked a kind of nationalistic vigor and resurrected the Cameroonian government from the slumber they are used to. Now, the question is, I will be with you. Do you think that Cameroon can organize that thing, or is it just a matter of prestige?
I think we have been hurt by this fight between Ahmad
Your
and
nationalistic fiber has been...
Nationalistic. Maybe Cameroon needed that Ahmad to bring back their vigor. This fight between Ahmad and our brother, our father Issa Chiruma. Sorry.
Issa
Ayatu, former president of CAF. This fight they are going through will be beneficial to us, and I'll tell you why. We were so lackluster in this issue. The Japoma Stadium has made more progress in the last 3 weeks than it did in the last 1 month.
But may I remind you that they are on strike?
And it's not still enough. I know.
They are on strike, right?
They are in the process of restarting the work. They would do it. We can do it. We will do it because we have been hurt. The pride has been hurt. I would have loved for us to do it because we really wanted to develop our country. But if we are doing it just because we have been hurt by Ahmad and the fight he has with Isayatu is good. The second point I have is why the CAF? I don't know how you are the jurist on the panel. I don't know if it's legal that you give a framework to a country to organize a competition with forced host cities, 16 teams. Mm-hmm. Midway during our preparations, CAF has presented to us a new framework for 6 cities and 24 teams.
And 16 and 24 teams.
And 24 teams.
Well,
we didn't plan for that.
Yes,
that will need more funds. And you know we are in structural adjustments right now.
In structural adjustments.
It will take us something really much, but I think we can do it.
All right. If you're in a structural adjustment program and you don't have money, there's no crime in you saying that you cannot host it. Now the other question is, he says that the pride has been touched. It didn't foolhardy on the part of Cameroon. Well, for example, the other day I saw Bafoussam is even horrible than Bamenda. How will they be able? Because it's not just construction of the stadia. You need roads, you need hotels, you need hospitals.
Yeah.
To be sincere, put aside all those nationalistic fiber that we have. Sincerely, Moki, do you think that Cameroon can host that in 26 months left or 18 months left or 20?
Well, Elie, I think my first reaction to this is give a big thank you to Ahmad. Yeah, he's a wonderful guy. Because he even put our head of state to work. Because a few hours after his statement, the head of state signed the decree creating the Kokan something. Mm-hmm. How many years ago were we given this hosting right? I mean, in most countries, we know how these things are done. Immediately they are given the hosting right, the organizing committee is set up, and they get to work. We came back and slept.
In other words, the Prime Minister, because the Prime Minister was the head of one commission, if I'm not wrong, so he has been incompetent, lazy, so not some Ahmad has...
Right. Now, so Ahmad came up now and, rekindled the spirit in us and said, hey, you are sleeping, you need to work. Suddenly, we had 2 ministers and the president of FECAFOOD on a set for a press conference. Suddenly, the head of state was taking an engagement in front of athletes. He wanted to make that statement. Since he's not good at addressing, is talking to his people. He doesn't dialogue with his people. That's clear. The head of state doesn't dialogue with Cameroonians. He needed a framework, an occasion now to send across the message that I'm taking upon myself that engagement, that commitment that we shall be ready. So they brought athletes who won medals some times ago. Some of them don't even remember when they won their medals. Clustered them at the Unity Palace for that statement. And that was the news. That the chef d'État prend l'engagement ferme. That was news. The news was no longer those medals that were won, but so we saw that there was a hidden agenda behind that Unity Palace issue. Now, because the head of state was going to take upon himself this engagement that, I'm staking my personality here that we are going to host this. And the next day, he signed this decree, creating this. So all along, what has been happening in Cameroon? We know the history of projects in this country. Look at the bridge over the Vuri River, the second bridge. How many years behind deadline are we? Look at the road, Douala and Boya, for example. How many years behind schedule are we? we have this history of projects which are hardly realized within the given framework. So if we start saying now that except these next 2 years are going to be exceptional years in Cameroon, that we'll begin things and we'll finish them at the appropriate time or the stipulated time. Otherwise, if you look at the Japoma Stadium, when I hear some people talking of 20% execution, I'm a layman, maybe because I'm not an engineer. I've been there. You look at the place, to me, it's not even up to 5%.
It's not up to 5%.
Go to the Paul Biya Stadium in Olembe, which is being executed by Pichinians. I know most of the engineers. I know most of them who are there. Then they tell us, they say, guy, we don't know what magic we are going to perform here. Let's just wait and see.
Okay.
And on that, the checklist that CAF was gave to Cameroon, the Amado Ahijo Stadium was not supposed to be the main stadium hosting it was supposed to be the Olembe Stadium, the Paul Biya Stadium. So the Amado Ahijo Stadium was supposed to be a training ground. The Limbe Stadium was not even part of it, was supposed to be a training ground. So the main stadium that are supposed to host the opening and the closing matches have not even started. Japoma and the Paul Biya Stadium.
Japoma and the Paul Biya Stadium. Marcel Amabo, I'm coming back on to you right now. What do you make of those who say Paul Biya, as he said, the government has been lackluster, he doesn't know how to communicate with his people. He seems to give a lot of attention on a kind of superficial thing, right? And there are major things like the Anglophone crisis going on. We are prone in the north. He doesn't come out to say anything. But now that Ahmad has now spoken, saying that we don't even have the capacity to host even four if we don't have 4 stadia. So what do you make of that?
Well, I think it goes to what Mr. Moki said. It's an issue of pride, since it has to do with the image of our country, the international community hosting an international event. Well, it's like, no, this thing, I must show my face, The Anglophone crisis, they have always tried to make it down as nothing. Play down like nothing, an internal struggle by some group of terrorists, Boko Haram, of course, already has it too. So I think it's an issue of a pride. That's why he's stepping up and doing. But then, inertia and just staying in the status quo has been characterizing our government, our leadership in this country. So none of these things is new to any of us sitting on this table. If we, in the depth of our hearts, if we are saying that we can host this thing, it's just for that patriotic feeling of not wanting to deny, not to identify with your country on something like this. But somewhere we are like, this thing is impossible. But like they say, impossible never come on. Maybe with the 2035 emergence velocity, we'll be able to see these projects, this construction work being done over the next 12, 15 months for us to be able to host.
And they'll be able to have 5 new stadiums.
Let me add something there. We live in such a system where our head of state is now like a god in this country. You need to see how ministers tremble around when it concerns the head of state. And I think he has done it deliberately, so that he becomes now like the messiah of the Cameroon people.
Yeah, he's a messiah.
So at some point, don't be surprised that even all these things had been proposed and put on his table for him to sign these things, and he keeps them. At the end now, we now see his ministers as incompetent. So he is the messiah who comes now with the magic wand and the magic solution. Pap, the God has spoken, things are going to work. Sur la haute autorité.
Exactly. Now, let me come on back on you. Now, would it be a bad thing, or like we say, a crime de lèse-majesté for Cameroon to say, all right, look, I don't want to afford to have any kind of humiliation? In addition, Mr. Ahmad says there is an independent body that will come and verify and double check and then give it approval whether we are fit for. What if after doing all this brouhaha, at the end of the day, they said, well, we are not fit for it?
First of all, the Nations Cup belongs to an international organization, an association, a confederation called CAF. They are the ones making profit from it. Host cities, most host cities of international organizations, sporting events have been in loss, from Olympics to World Cups and all of that. It's not too much of an honor to give us an organization. The blackmail Ahmad is putting us through, it's not worth it. why I'm insisting on that we host this thing is because the infrastructure in the country is not good enough. We need something like this to get those roads. Even if those roads come late, then immediately they start the work, I will be glad to have these roads in Douala and Bafoussam built. Even if the competition doesn't hold, I don't care. We need to rebuild this country. We need to build our infrastructure because economically too, it will be a stimulus for the economy. These infrastructural projects, although they are loans, will be stimuli for the economy.
How
this is what
how would it be stimulating when we have prefabricated structures that come out from China, no, from Italy and China or whatever?
Italy.
So how many Cameroons will be employed there?
Well, first of all, that the prefabricated we're talking about Linonge Stadium. Like you said, the competition is way more than just the sporting infrastructure. I personally think the Linonge Stadium will be a white elephant, like most other countries have had. What I'm interested in will be those hotels and those roads and the hospitals and things like that. Those ones will be more crucial to us. I think we will host it. I don't think Linonge Stadium will be a training stadium. It has been accredited. It will be a stadium. But for some who has been accredited, the roads network is not yet done. It will be.
And you think the road network
Yaoundé, Amabo, Ahijo can be used. We can have two stadia in Yaoundé. This Bepanda Stadium must be rehabilitated. I don't know why it has been left out. Garua is still around. So the stadia is not the problem. We can build those things. We can loan our necks off and build them. What we need to do now is to build those roads. We should make sure those potholes are filled.
Okay.
After this competition.
Politics may likely end up getting us to host this event. We know.
It will.
I know President Biya with his politics. So even if, like he said, the projects are they don't get to complete them, you may find ourselves in a situation where, due to his unique diplomacy and political style, he can get to do something. And
like in Gabon, they were not totally finished before they hosted.
Even except for security purposes, depending on how the government handles the Anglophone presence and Anglophone crisis.
Now, let me ask you this question. You said
in Brazil, before you ask the question, you remember the World Cup started, there were still some of the stadiums were still under construction.
Yes.
So it's not a strange thing,
It's not a strange thing, but the thing is that the stadia were there where the finishing touches were finishing, right? But here you don't have anything.
We have something.
In 2 years we're going to have.
Are you sure?
On the other side, it's true. Ahmad made the statement. It was a good thing for us because it pushed the whole government to work. But as a diplomat of that nature is not supposed to rattle around with words. He was really reckless with his words.
He reminded me of Nigeria's former Minister of Foreign Affairs, Tom Ekimi, whatever. It was very undiplomatic the way he spoke his things. So.
Yeah, so he was not very diplomatic the way he put it, And if you look at it, I mean, if you further analysis of the situation, you begin to see that there is some kind of score settling he was trying to do with Issa Hayatou, which to me was quite stupid, You cannot come somewhere along the line. Look at FIFA has changed the format of the World Cup, for example. But that one is going to take effect, I think, in 2030 or so. Way after Russia, after Qatar. You see, they have given enough time for it to be implemented. Even when UEFA changed their format, it took about 8 years for it to be implemented. Why suddenly Africa, we know we don't even have the resources. If mighty Europe could change and take 8 years to implement, small Africa.
Now the question I would like to ask, and I think you brought that idea, so man, you think you are legalist, right? I'm sorry to interrupt you that bluntly, but you are a legalist, but we have an armada of lawyers around and things like that. I don't know if any decision is kind of retroactive. We were for 4 cities, if I'm not wrong. Now
16 teams.
16 teams. 24 and six host cities. Can such a decision be challenged legally? If yes, but why is it that the Cameroon government has not done such a thing?
Yeah, of course. Such decisions can be challenged legally based on the regulations, the CAF regulations organizing these competitions. And now, when you look at the fact that they are publishing it, it is worthy of note that these things will hardly, the Cameroon government will hardly be learning of it only as it's exposing it now. These are things which, because there is a committee.
Are you trying to say the Cameroon government was perhaps informed, but they tried to ignore it?
It's very possible, right? Reason being this, when you have this right of organization conferred to a country, there is always a committee, a commission that works with the international, with the confederation of the international body in question, but follow up. Before they come and do the assessment and everything, they always do it procedural. So they might have changed, because if actually it was outright violation, per se, that in the sense that they were not informed before time, you would have heard the address of the Minister of Communication or President attacking it directly from that side. It's an issue of diplomacy. You will not joke with that. You get it? It may be that in the course of it, they might not have been comfortable, but they said, okay, let's try it and see, but it has held us on the neck and we can't meet up to it. That's why they are bringing it now to the public. CAF is bringing it out to the public. But whatever, if there is any non-respect of the procedure there, the Cameroon government has a right to challenge it.
Okay, now why don't you, let me ask you this question for you, right? There is another rumor going around that Ayatu decided that most of the game be organized in West Africa. You have Gabon, you have Cameroon, very soon, Equatorial Guinea, and then Guinea. All these while is going to be in West Africa. Don't you see that as kind of justification for him? So why is it that the West Africans will have this monopoly? It should at least go to North Africa or to Southern Africa.
Yes, it's actually a witch hunt. It's a clear witch hunt, and I would like to affirm here. And what he was saying, that maybe the Cameroonian government knew of that change before.
Like the amnesty report, they didn't know until they were surprised.
For this case, they didn't know. That change came about after the election of Amabo.
They didn't know, but why didn't they now take lawyers to challenge it?
Maybe it could be. The fact is, first of all, that they didn't know. The change has come only with Ahmad. And this change was discussed in Harare before he was voted. He gathered Infantino.
In Lusaka or Harare?
The first one in Harare.
In Harare.
They gathered the how they call the ones in South Africa?
Sekafa. Yeah, I think it was in Lusaka.
Sekafa is East Africa.
Yeah, East and Southern Africa.
They gathered them and organized how to oust Issa Hayatou. In that meeting, they discussed the fact that Issa Hayatou was being nepotic, and he was organizing the Nations Cup around his region.
Around West Africa.
Yes, and that Morocco was clearly behind this, and they wanted to host one. Remember they stopped their hosting because of Ebola, and Ebola, which was clearly imaginary because experts were saying there was no problem. They have always wanted to host that Nations Cup back. 2019 is Morocco's prize. They want it. So that's what's happening in CAF. CAF politics is now getting to the
discharge of Morocco, they want the World Cup, they don't want the African Cup.
Yeah, they want the World Cup, they want the African Cup.
So that is, you strike high, then you catch low. And now, I wanted to end with you, the program's coming to an end, Moki. So, to be sincerely speaking, as far as I'm concerned, if I were to give my opinion, I think we are not ready. And he said it's a loss-making event. Why is it that it's a loss-making event, but yet we want to go and throw away money of the Cameroonian government we don't have?
It's for international pride. The Nations Cup left Gabon on its knees economically. It left Equatorial Guinea on its knees. I don't have my figures here present, but I can give you the figures. Those two countries are virtually on their knees. The state as per se doesn't gain anything from that. The individuals may gain, but the state doesn't really gain from the organization of this thing. So there are many reasons why Cameroon would want to host it. Most of them political reasons. But again, to say we are not ready, I think it's a little bit too early to say that. We still have some time, especially as the Almighty has decided that it's going to work. Let's wait and see.
We don't want to be on our belly. If Gabon and Equatorial Guinea on their knees with our state that we have now, it will leave us on our belly.
Thank you very much, gentlemen, for having taken out some time out of your very busy schedule to come here today. It is on this note that we're putting an end to this edition of Newsroom here today. Next week, you will be with your humble servant, Henry Kejang Atembe, who is somewhere around Lebialem. From all of us here to all of you, stay tuned to more programs on Canal de English.